Thank you for being here, especially, during your summer vacation. I really, really appreciate that. If you can keep your microphones muted throughout the session, that would be great. We will have a question period at the end as well for you if you want to chat with our lovely experts. Oh, there we go. And we can take it from there. You can also add in your questions. Hi, Melanie.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
No worries, just started. You can also add in your questions in the chat at any time. We'll review those afterwards during that question period. And yeah, so let me start by, I guess, introducing myself. My name is Anna Lee. I am the Director of Partnerships at the Gaia Project. So the Gaia Project, just to give you a little brief summary, is a provincial nonprofit. And our mission is to empower youth and teachers to take action on climate change. So we offer free, fun, hands-on programming for kindergarten to grade 12 to students across the province. So we talk about energy literacy, climate action. We talk about different projects that you can do in your schools to help have a good impact on the environment. So today during the presentations, as you see, there's 4 panelists, but we also have 2 other team members from the Gaia Project. There's Mia Tran and Gab Book, who will also be monitoring the chat if you have any questions or need any more information, because I will be, kind of coordinating and hosting for today, but I don't always see the chat going on, so they'll be helping me do that. Before we officially start, we always start with a land acknowledgement. So I would like to acknowledge that the land that we work on today, the land that we are doing this panel presentation today, is on the unsurrendered and unceded land of the past, present, and future Wabanaki peoples. So we are all treaty people in New Brunswick, and we hope to become better allies to Indigenous communities throughout our work. Now, so for today, we'll be talking about green jobs. Our 4 lovely panelists here today will be talking about their jobs, talking about the green element, we'll be talking about what are green jobs, what does that look like? We have, for the panelists, we have students here from all across the province, mostly high school, but we do have some from middle school as well, so ranging from grades 6 to 12. And again, thank you for being here, students, because you're off during the summer, so that's really appreciated. Like I mentioned before, if you wouldn't mind keeping your mics muted, we'll have a question period at the end. And for our participants, please add your questions to the chat too if you don't want to forget them or whatnot, and we'll review those at the end. Any questions so far before we begin the official part, questions, I guess, with the panelists? Just checking here. Panelists, good to go? Dustin, I don't see your thumbs up, but I'm imagining you are giving me your thumbs up as we go. All right, so today what I'll do is I'll introduce our panelists. I'll share their names, titles, and organizations, and we'll let them kind of explain their job later on and how that works, what that looks like. So today we have Brad Nason from UNB, so sustainability. So he is climate change officer for sustainability UNB. We also have Kevin Gallant, who is an engineer consultant, works on a variety of green projects throughout the province and more. We have Melanie Langille, President and CEO of the New Brunswick Lung Association, here with us as well. And last but not least, Dustin Bowers, who is the CEO at PLAEX Building Systems Inc. Thank you all for being here today, much appreciated. So today we're going to explore what all of these jobs have in common. We're going to explore, that green element and whatnot. But my first question to the panelists is, how would you explain your job to a student? What are your main responsibilities? And I'll go with Brad to start off, and then we can go here. What about this? We'll go with Brad, Melanie, Dustin, and then Kevin. And then please share your jobs.
Yeah, so as you said, I'm the climate change officer for UND. So the University of New Brunswick, we have two campuses, one on Farton and one in St. John. And basically the university has come out with a kind of a climate change action plan, as well as a couple of sustainability plans, which touch on everything related to climate and sustainability. And my job essentially is to run those programs and make sure we work towards those goals that we've set out. So we have everything from waste to transportation to energy efficiency to emissions to kind of anything that's related to sustainability comes through our office, and I try to tie it to our climate change action plans. So that's a quick overview of kind of what I do.
Thanks, Brad. Melanie.
Hi, I'm Melanie with the New Brunswick Lung Association. My role, excuse me, my title is President and CEO here. The New Brunswick Lung Association has for many, many years been a leader in the effects of air quality on human health, particularly lung health. And we've also woven into that a climate change aspect, because that climate does have a lot of impacts on the quality of the air we breathe. So that's the focus of our team here. And my job as president and CEO is to find opportunities for our team to contribute their expertise and knowledge and passion and bring that forward into programming that looks like public education and outreach in all aspects of environment and health.
Thanks, Melanie. Dustin, you're up.
Hey, how are you? Yeah, so I'm the founder and product developer for PLAEX Building Systems. Founded the company in 2020, and we've been working hard to get into manufacturing. We're taking currently unrecycled or under-recycled plastic waste and construction waste and turning that into fully interlocking building systems.
Thanks, Dustin. And we'll be sharing also your websites in the chat later on as well for students to go take a look also at the programs and products and whatnot. And Kevin.
Hi, I'm Kevin Gallant. I'm a professional engineer from Miramichi in northeastern Brunswick, and I've got a lot of hats. 40 years ago, I was a student in Fredericton, and my first engineering technician job was biogas systems at ADI, and I've never looked back. It's been a great journey, and I just recently had to write about it to the engineering profession. It's called Engineering Geosciences. I'm president of the Engineering Geosciences Northeast, but also vice president of the Watershed Group here in Miramichi, and trying to promote climate change projects for over 30 years now in the Miramichi, and enjoying the networks. And there's a lot of opportunities, and hopefully we can help the students get that attractor they need to do to dive into this field.
Thank you. Now, let's step back in time a little bit. Let's go to when you were all in high school. When or what type of jobs or careers do you think you were going to have when you were in high school? Just to give us a sense of then and now. So we can maybe go the other way around. Kevin, if you want to start, then with Dustin, Melanie, and then Brian.
I was one of those weird kids. I knew I was going to be an engineer in grade 5. And I had Savonius wind turbines and solar panels in my backyard. I even had a greenhouse with a vacuum cleaner keeping it heated when I was 10 years old. So I was one of those boots on the ground kids. And then I printed my resume in a dot matrix printer. If anybody knows what that is, it looks like code. And got this job at ADI as a technician. And I never looked back. I was doing project management schedules for projects in India, Mid-America, and I was only 17, but they needed a computer guy. And anyways, that was my first summer job, and then decided to go in engineering. And what really started me is that in Fredericton High School, where I graduated, was 986. I took 3 geology courses, and one teacher there, Jack Davies, inspired me to get into geology, and it's very important in New Brunswick. But I didn't want to. I took crystallography, and I said I don't want to continue in this, and I switched to civil engineering technology, materials inspection, and then realized renewals was big, environmental science was big in my career, in my background, and So what I'm getting at is that, you know, when you go into university, if you decide that route, you might decide to go in the trades instead, you know, or start out in the trades. I've got uh, folks that start out in the trades and then go in engineering, but I did a little different. And 2/3 of the students didn't make it in my class in engineering, and I went back and got my engineering degree later on after I knew what I really wanted to do. And, you know, luckily I knew since grade 5 what I wanted to do and what I wanted to achieve is to help bring climate change projects, especially clean energy, into into our society. And it's been a tough road, but I think now with all the green groups like Gaia and EOS Eco Energy and the new Center of Excellence for Energy, you know, you've grown up as students understanding the impact of climate change, and where we didn't have that background when I grew up. We were doing it ad hoc, all by ourselves. So there's a lot of a lot of funding programs now to help support it. And so anyways, now as a consultant, I'm speaking at AGMs about clean energy. I'm writing reports about clean energy. I'm active in our own clean energy events for students, and it's fun. And you've got to make it fun. You got to have a passion for it. And to me, it's not really work. It's more about networking and helping building our economy with climate change projects to help companies grow and companies build clean energy systems in our communities.
So you kind of knew when you were in high school what you wanted to do, but that changed throughout the years with different opportunities. That's really interesting, Kevin. What about you, Dustin? When you were in high school, what did that look like?
So, I mean, I grew up in the trades. I've been working, I started working on foundations and building, additions and modifications and new houses and stuff when I was, about 8 or 9 years old. I started helping my uncle do it. So I kind of grew up with that. My grandfather was a tool and die smith. He was one of the lead guys. He was, they ended up bringing him out of retirement actually after he retired for a couple of years at like triple pay, because he was one of the guys who knew how to do all the die cast stuff properly for engine production. So very, very skilled, very tradesman kind of oriented family. Now, when I was in school, I had originally really wanted to be an animator, actually. I was inspired by a lot of animations and stuff, and always had a very artistic streak. High school was difficult, I'm not going to lie. I did really good with certain aspects of it and not so well with others. I think, it's good. High school now has opened up, I've seen, for a lot more gifted kids to be able to excel. Take advantage. You'll find a few good teachers that will really help. Absolutely. And don't mind the ones that aren't helping, because you can't spend your time worrying about them. I didn't end up having the money or ability to go to college or university afterwards, but I got into the trades, and it was really out of that eventually I realized there's different ways of making a living. You can sell your hours. That's very limited. You can sell your knowledge, which is just an extension of selling your hours, or you can sell an idea. And this concept really made me to start to think about how I was approaching business and the way I was doing things. And so I decided to take something from my skill background, building houses, building structures, and try to bring something new to the market, something that could improve or iterate upon what already exists. And so I was really inspired into it once my first kid was born in 2017. And out of that, I delved deep into how can I take from the skills that I have, the things that I know very well, the things that I enjoy doing, and make something that can make that better. And that's how I got where I am now.
Thanks, Dustin. What about you, Melanie? What did that look like? What did your high school time look like?
When I was in high school, I wanted to be a veterinarian and had wanted that since I was a really small child, probably 5 or 6 years old. I went in a complete different direction when I started university, I started kind of keeping those doors open. But I had done a co-op term when I was in high school where I worked in a vet's office. And it was actually the most valuable thing I think I ever did, in that it showed me that that's what I don't want to do. So I got a really good perspective of all of the things that are incorporated in running a veterinary office. And it's not just playing with kitties and puppies all the time. There are other aspects that I just had a hard time swallowing. So when I went to university, I did a Bachelor of Science and just kind of followed where my interests lay. So the first year I didn't know what I was doing. I just did general science. And then in the second or third, I can't remember, year, you have to decide on which specialty you're going to do. And I leaned into the courses that I had really found interesting. So I went down the route of biology and ended up sort of by happenstance getting a summer job in university through the Department of Environment, which really sort of sparked what kind of that passion of helping animals and more broadly in the environment and the natural environment of wildlife. So went down that route, and it just sort of snowballed from there. From there, I found a Master of Environmental Science program that looked really interesting, and I said, well, I might as well apply for it. And when I got into it, I realized, oh, I love this stuff. So that's kind of the trajectory from high school through to early university years.
Thanks, Melanie. Brad, what about you?
Yeah, for me, when I guess it started in about grade 8. I remember the exact moment we were watching An Inconvenient Truth, the documentary, in 8th grade, and that was the first time I learned about climate change and sustainability, and that really piqued my interest. So in high school, I took the environmental courses that I could. I remember, I don't know if he's still Adam Trider at McNaughton. That's where I went to high school. Taught me environmental science, and I knew I wanted to be in that field. And so when I did all the courses I could there, and then I did my degree in geoenvironmental engineering at UNB. So I've known since, I guess, grade 8 that I wanted to be in the sustainability realm, and I guess that's just lucky me, so to speak, considering all the other panelists have kind of had different paths. But no, for me, it's been since grade 8. So it's been pretty straightforward. Once I get into work and stuff, it's a bit more weavy, but I've known for high school, I knew I wanted to be in sustainability and climate change. Yeah.
I love the diversity of, experiences and career pathways, and also talking about trades, talking about, different ways of going about to find a green job as well. Within the job you have now, what is the best, what do you love most about it? What do you love most? What gets you up in the day? What do you love best about the job that you have now? And we're going to change this around. I'm going to start with Melanie. We're going to go Brad, Dustin, and then Kevin.
I think my favorite part of what really gets me jazzed up about the job that I do is sharing knowledge with other people and helping them to then make decisions in their own lives that will have an impact on our collective health, our collective environment. So I've done a couple of things over the years. I did a short stint of lecturing at UNB. I had I don't know what the term is for it, but it wasn't a full professor. But while I was working here at the Lung Association, I popped out there and did that, and really enjoyed that. I'm also really inspired by problem solving, and that's been a theme throughout the various careers that I've had. But solving problems and helping others to solve their problems is really the crux of what gets me excited about my job.
Thank you. Brad.
For me, it's kind of the variety. So our climate change action plans have a lot of different categories and a lot of things going on at once. So it's everything and anything, like I said, related to sustainability. For example, today I met with someone about having a bike co-op on campus. I had met with someone else about having energy saving kits for new students in the fall. We're doing work with everything from those electric scooters you guys are seeing more and more. We're trying to work with that to collecting data on our greenhouse gas emissions and reporting it out to the university. So that's what I like about my job, is the variety of it. I like to think that climate change sustainability is kind of everything people do, and there's a lot of really cool things going on. And so my job allows me to kind of play with all of those different categories.
Thank you. Dustin.
Yeah, so I mean, I later on in my career in construction, I really started realizing the issue around waste, and kind of woke up to some of the greater environmental issues kind of in my early 20s. And I tried to implement my own solutions. I ran a vehicle on waste vegetable oil for almost 8 years. And looking at ways of being more sustainable, always trying to use more sustainable products, reuse as many materials on the job site as possible. But none of these things scaled. And when I was working out west, managing a big construction company out there, project manager, we had about 18 projects, about $12 million total in projects, and the amount of waste that we were generating just absolutely shocked me. Working on one project at a time, or 2 or 3 projects at a time, was never that volume. It never struck me so much. Working at that level, that scale, the volume of waste really struck me. And then after I had my first kid, I realized it's just not sustainable. I look around, and so what gets me up is knowing that I'm working to contribute to the solution for some very, very big problems facing our world right now. I think waste management is probably our #1 existential threat to humanity. Mismanagement of waste is a problem. Nature doesn't produce garbage. Why do we? It should be cradle to cradle. It's every waste product is a raw material for a new purpose. And we need to start looking at things like that, rather than, oh, this is garbage, we're just going to throw it away. Throw it away to where? For who to deal with? No, this is a raw material for a new purpose. Let's find what purpose we can use this raw material for. And so I think that's really what kind of keeps motivating and driving me, is knowing that I'm contributing to this change, and that there's hope for future generations to have more sustainable practices. And I'm happy to be part of the solution.
Thanks, Dustin. Kevin, what about you? What do you love most about what you do?
It's a tough one right now. I'm kind of in a transition. I just finished a 88-page report. It's called Clean Energy for Cleaner Communities, and it was funded by the North Shore Mi'kmaq District Council, and they have a new $10 million building being net zero that's being developed in the next year, and they're just building 2 net zero buildings. They're really proactive in solar. Even the Eel Ground Niagara School is all full of solar panels from partnerships. And I guess my big thing is building partnerships. And I call it 6 pillars of climate change right now. I've been promoting a lot of workshops last year, and you can't do it alone. And I'm trying to build together teams. And people don't realize that, in the province of Brunswick, we have 40 green teams, from traditional environmental watershed groups to proactive youth programs like Gaia and EOS, Eco Energy in the schools, and Center of Excellence for Energy. And what I'm trying to do is make people aware that there are solutions. And I call these 6 pillars with the clean energy. There's really 6 pillars we can do, and solar is the easiest one. I mean, if you look at Summerside right now, they've been around. Their electric company been around for 100 years. Greg Goodette, I met him years ago at economics, but it's all about the economy and building solar infrastructure. And there's a lot of types of solar. I put in over 50 hot air solar panels in 2005 when I first started really getting into consumer solar. I still have one in my house, still running in the winter, and and you've got to do it. So solar is one of the pillars. Wind is the other pillar. The problem with those top 2, they're intermittent, right? And which means they don't run 24 hours a day. When you're in the middle of winter and there's no wind and no sun in the morning, what do you do, right? So another pillar, a new pillar that's happening the last few years, is smart grid, storing somehow the energy so that you can run it 24/7. So we've been pushing that. The 4th pillar is, everybody's hearing about it every day, as an EV vehicle. Well, where are you going to charge it, right? Well, I'm talking to companies that charge vehicles by solar with a solar canopy right in northern New Brunswick. One of them is called True Sun. And there's another one that emailed me the other day called Beam for All. They make a solar charger. So EV charging systems is another big pillar. Another one that's really easy right now, there's funding for, is heat pumps in a house. And I get an example. The UK, they say they're 15 years ahead of us, but they have 20 million gas-fired heaters in their houses. How do they convert? Well, the only thing they've got to do is heat pumps. So New Brunswick's taken advantage of heat pump strategies, especially in the First Nations, where to heat and cool a house. And so that's another pillar. And the final one, in Scotland, they have over 500 micro hydro stations, and we might have 5 in this province. So small hydro without damming is another pillar. So there's a lot of different industries, but those are 6 industries that I really look seriously at that can tie into funding and the teams around to make it happen. And but that's what I've been working on the last 7 months pretty hard, and trying to promote clean energy for cleaner communities. And
it sounds like you know, the whole clean energy aspect is something that thrives you, that brings you, that motivates you, Kevin, and knowing you also from interacting with you, it's just, you can't, for you, it feels like you like a lot of different things, and connecting people in different groups together is one of the main ones for you, it seems like. I think Dustin has, you raised your hand there, Dustin.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would add one more pillar there, which is modern nuclear.
Yeah.
I think it is extremely important moving forward, and I hope a few of you get into nuclear sciences and material sciences, because the major issues facing 2 of the big pillars there, being solar and wind, is end of life application. So as somebody who's very involved in waste management industries, the only industry that has a almost seamless waste management system, and they need it, is nuclear. You know, people get all up about a couple of the accidents because we developed nuclear facilities that were also in conjunction with nuclear weapons programs. But we have other technologies, and I hope some of you do get into nuclear technologies, because as we go out into the cosmos, I think that's going to be our main source.
I'm happy you brought that. I'm happy you brought that up, Dustin. Oh, sorry, Kevin.
It's a good point, Dustin. Then it was in my report, the SMRs, because we lead an SMR team, and SMR stands for Small Modular Reactors. And North Shore Mi'kmaq District Council do have an SMR team that is looking at the baseline load, because you know, MB Power's really active in this file. They've really pushing this to help build that capacity, because we need a baseline load for this province. And like I said, in the mornings. But the thing is, like in the world, people are doing, communities like Denmark are already exporting more than they need. You know, so that's a big controversy right now in some areas. Do you want that in your backyard? They call it the NIMBY syndrome. But the specialist jobs in that area for these young students, you know, the paying jobs are a lot higher in the nuclear than any other industry. Very lucrative, and we do have to replace the Belledune plant up here in the north, the coal-fired plant, by 2030. And SMR would be the solution for these communities.
Let's recap just a little bit for our students here who are, you know, thinking of green jobs, or thinking of, because we have a panel of really diverse people from different backgrounds, and who obviously love, there's a lot of solution focused, a lot of being part of that solution, a lot of that diversity of networking, whatnot. But let's dig into a little bit more around the green part of it. So, and what I mean by that for you students, and also for panelists, is for us at the Gaia Project, you know, a green job or a green career means any job or career really that intentionally contributes to a more sustainable world. You know, and green for us encompasses, you know, virtually all sectors of society. It could be food, energy, which we talked about, transportation, education, government. You know, it's very diverse. So essentially every job has the potential to be green to a certain point. Depends on how you look at it. But coming back to you panelists, what aspects of your job make it green, or what are the projects or I guess files that you work on that make it green? And I'll start with let's go with Melanie, Brad, and then we'll end with Kevin and then Dustin.
Yeah, we work on a wide variety of projects here at the Lung Association that are environmental health related, but just to highlight a few of them, we have been involved in the EV advisory group since it started in 2015 and have been part of policy advocacy to bring in things like the provincial rebate to help people get over that upfront capital cost of EVs being more expensive than a new gas car. And so we have we put a lot of focus on a sort of thanks Anna, sorry, we use so many acronyms. Yeah, so we do help people to sort of think about how these greener technologies could fit in their lifestyles. We have a lot of focus right now on getting people out and driving an EV for the first time and kind of coming to that realization that this could work for them. It's not sort of an elitist technology anymore. It is becoming the norm. So that's a major component of what we do. And we also do a lot of work in, again, on the policy advocacy side, which is kind of nebulous to think about if you're in high school, but it's like the government rules about what we do and how we act and what's allowed and what's not allowed. So we do a lot of advocacy around chemicals management, both from a health perspective and from a pollution perspective. So I think those would be the main green focuses of what we do here.
Thanks, Melanie. Brad.
Yeah, so I guess I'm uniquely positioned, I guess, on this panel that where my job literally ties into climate change as a climate change officer. So everything I do is green, which is, I like that. So there's not one little aspect, because at the end of the day, UNB's goal, and I guess all of our goals in some ways, to reduce the amount of, I guess, bad stuff in the air and bad stuff in our water and the amount of impact we have on the planet. And that's essentially what my job is, and everything I do kind of ties into that. So I guess everything I do a lot of things like collecting data from what we use to present, writing reports, to, again, like similar to Melanie, doing policy work, but more on a smaller scale, kind of at UNB, as well as doing programming and outreach. So we do a lot of outreach with students, especially when they start at UNB, and advocate for sustainability things at the university. So yeah, that's kind of my everything I do makes it green.
Thanks, Brad. Oh, we lost Dustin, and I think he's back. Just to give him a little bit of time to just log in. Kevin, do you want to go? And then we'll finish this one with
I
Dustin.
guess if I could leave one thing other than role modeling the students is it started a year ago, and I was asked to develop an environmental technician program, a 1-year program, because the students in high school, probably the ones listening, what am I going to do? Am I going to spend $26,000 a year at university, or and I did. I was lucky. I stayed at home, but but I stuck to the environmental science area, and related area. But one of the things that stuck with me when I wrote a brand new program was the Sustainable Development Goals defined by UN. I'm going to put it in the chat now. And what it's really about is that, yes, you could get into science, but some people aren't born to get into science. Some people are born more business-like. Some people are more arts type, where you're looking at the psych-soc side of this. And believe me, when I was a high school age, I didn't even know what psych was till I started teaching and mentoring students. And I wish I took more of those courses. But if you look at this link, if you had a chance, there's 17 goals with Sustainable Development Goals, and I've been following it for years. And there's a lot of targets. And when I talked about those pillars, what I've set is 6 targets for New Brunswick, right? And some of it's related to affordable clean energy, which is number 7 in the 17 goals. And these are worldwide United Nations goals. And I don't like acronyms, but it's one that you can remember, SDGs. One is industry innovation. I won 2 innovation awards because I like to take risks. I like to, my wife certainly doesn't, but I like to take risks on new projects. And for example, I'm trying to install a solar bifacial canopy on my deck to run a heat pump off grid, right? And that's me, right? I'm still doing those backyard projects, right? And but then there's sustainable cities, which Brad and Melanie and all the everybody can help out, and the universities and colleges, like especially Brad, should be role modeling students. I mean, the university should be plastered with solar farms now and solar powered EV charging stations, and I was one of the future divest, which is kind of like alumni, divest to help promote sustainable universities, but they should be taking a lead. And the colleges, NBCC, CCNB, are doing their part. And but those sustainable goals are kind of my own goals, and those are done by a team. And if you don't do it with a team, you might as well not do it at all. You can't do it yourself. And but anyways, that's one thing. Just remember SDGs. I'll be around for your lifetime. They're great goals for the entire world of climate action, and they should be presented to every student every year and repeated every year. So hopefully you takes the time to look at those goals.
Brad, I think, has something to say about that.
It was just funny how you said that, because I do agree with you on that front, but we do have some interesting projects in the works. We're actually installing solar on this very building. We're trying to do it on St. John. We're doing it on the Science Library at UNB, if you've ever been. We have some chargers. We've applied to more. So my point being is we're trying to reach out with the Gaia project, at least at the NB Power conference, Adam Schreider. Trying to work with them to get high school students into our campus to show them these things, and we're seeing what we can do, especially with our engineering department, because we have like those 3D printer rooms and fix-it labs that we want to get students into, high school students into. So yeah, there is some work. There's also a lot of work on geothermal. We wanted there's a plan, not saying for sure, there's a plan to switch the whole UNB SJ campus to geothermal, which would take us off of steam completely. So a lot of interesting engineering works going on campus, and we're hoping to be able to share that with high school students with the help of the Gaia project, maybe.
Exciting times. Dustin, are you still with us? I see that you're here, but just want to make sure. I know you had a hard time connecting there.
No, I am. My phone ended up overheating sitting in the sun there. So.
Oh no. Too much of a hot conversation going on. That's why.
Yeah. I guess it's a little sensitive to sitting in the sunlight, I suppose. I just had it on the magnetic holder there. So, yeah. So I mean, everything we are doing as a company is really green and sustainability focused. We're looking to solve these end of life waste materials. Half of all resources extracted globally go into construction. Half of everything. So over 40% of CO2 emissions go into construction. So, looking at how we take a big bite out and create a big impact, even trucks and cars and all of the vehicles that don't add up to that much. They're part of it because we use trucks and all that to transport everything. But really focusing on the construction industry for us was, in line with my years of experience. And really addressing something that is a very real issue. And so pretty much all of what we're doing is really addressing that. How do we find these and create these end-of-life solutions to materials? And honestly, that is one of the biggest challenges still facing a lot of our quote-unquote sustainable energy sources, is what we do with these things at the end of life. The windmill blades are a major issue now in the world. And the piles of solar panels keep getting bigger. So, we need people getting into material sciences, material reclamation, like really any cradle to cradle career, where you're looking at how do we create products from recycled materials? How do we break recycled materials into their base components to reuse them in some fashion? These are the industries that there is going to be full careers in. And very lucrative ones at that. I really, we need to close the life cycle. We need cradle to cradle ideology throughout, up and down the supply chains, and that's what we're really working to do. And working to get extend EPR solutions with various companies, so extended producer responsibility. And I think it's really important to create that networking and connections, bringing companies together. The issue of waste management is one that requires us all to work together to find solutions that can work. And also we have to be careful to not idealize people's behaviors. I think, you know, it is somewhat in human nature to be lazy, and we have to work hard not to be. And we also have to design systems that realize that most people will be. And so working under those pretexts is how can we create simple systems that solve these problems without big, complex overhead stuff. It needs to be simple for people. And I really, you know, as you go through things, make sure that you keep simplicity at the forefront. You know, some concepts seem very complex, but if you actually dig into them and you break them down, they should be very simple. Otherwise, you're probably not looking at it correctly.
How to make it more accessible for everyone to be part of a solution in the end,
Absolutely.
right? So
Absolutely.
I have a few more questions for you, but let's check in with our participants here. Are there any questions that you have so far for our panelists? Anything that you're wondering about? You can either unmute yourself and ask, or you can add it in the chat. I'll give a little bit of space for that. Yeah. Any questions so far? I'll continue with my questions on my end, and if you have any questions that come up, please, it's always, don't be shy, we don't bite, but if you have even questions afterwards for our panelists, we can always share them with you if that's okay with you guys, if something comes up afterwards as well. So my question to you panelists are, what are the skills needed? What does that look like? You know, what are the skills that help you to your job that you have today? So Melanie, want to start with you?
Yeah, sure. I think the two biggest components that I find helpful in my work and that I look for as I'm adding to my team is people that can be both analytical and creative at the same time. So it's a unique skill set, but what we work a lot with is taking these complex topics like have been discussed here and really breaking them down into digestible and understandable to those who don't have you know, a master's degree in environmental science, you know, to make that understandable. And so it does require those kind of both sides of the brain thinking on the analytical and creative side.
A good juggling act right there. What about you, Dustin? What are the skills? We know a little bit of traits, but what are the like more specific skills that you need to do your job that you have now?
I think in today's world, having a basic understanding of the technology that we work with is very important. You know, the basic computer skills. You know, if you don't know how to use an Excel sheet, you're probably not going to have an easy time in any realm of STEM. You know, as much as I detest them, they're still something that you need to learn how to use. And beyond that, you know, having some understanding of how code works, because everything is systems oriented. You know, we're creating systems. Understanding the basics of coding also allows you to understand the basics of scientific process. You know, the if-then principles are very important to be able to understand that. You don't necessarily have to be able to write Python or C++ or anything like that, but to understand the principles of it is very important, I think, moving forward with these things, because you have to take that iterative approach. You have to, you know, create an idea. Okay, here's the problem. Here's an idea that we think is going to work. How do we test that idea? All right, where did it succeed? Where did it fail? And really trying to keep that process mindset. Realize that failure is a major part of it. You know, bringing a new technology to market, we have spent so much money on failed projects that it kind of makes it, you know, some days you get that like, whoa, oh, we just spent that much on that and it didn't work. But then you look at it and you're like, okay, where is the lessons we can learn from this? How can we take that? Now, it wasn't a failure, it was a lesson. Now we've got these data points that we can use. We can eliminate this direction that we were going, and now we have an idea of a better direction to go. And then you iterate on that. And then the next time it might only work half the way, but now you know, and now we can iterate out, okay, this is probably what didn't work here. This is what did work. Now let's go in that direction. And every time you get, half of it right, half of it wrong, but then you focus on the half that was right. Then you do it again, then you get half of it right, half of it wrong, then you focus on the part that was right. And that iterative process and being able to accept failure, I think that is something that a lot of the younger generation is having a problem with, is accepting failure and accepting constructive criticism. You're going to do things wrong, and that's okay. That's part of the learning process. And I think that was one of the big things for me, coming through the trades and all this, was I get exposed to a lot of that critical, being able to okay, yeah, no, that didn't work. How do we do this correctly? Be willing to learn from advisors. I cannot express how valuable it is to have a few wise old people behind you that can give you that insight when you're looking at something. You're like, I haven't really approached this situation before in this respect. I think this is going to work, and you go and, hey, what do you think about this? And that bouncing that ideas. I mean, this is where civilization that we have today was built, is the ability to write, the ability to share ideas, your ability to build on others' experience, and never undervalue that. You're not going to do it all alone. Sometimes you're going to have to do a lot alone. Don't expect other people to do it. But don't try to do it all alone.
Well said. Brad, what about you? And then we'll finish with Kevin.
Yeah, I guess I would piggyback on Melanie's kind of creative and analytical at the same time. Which is kind of a skill. There's no class for it. It's just kind of part of growing and learning and doing things. But more specifically to my job, it would be a lot of people skills. UNB is essentially a really small city, and there's a lot of different people that work in a lot of different areas. And as someone who works in the green industry, it touches on every area. So you have to be able to reach out to a bunch of different groups and work together. Again, that's something you have to just, you kind of get better at over time. Another thing, I guess Dustin mentioned it, being using data and numbers is really important as well. Having that kind of number literacy. You don't have to know calculus, but you need to be comfortable in using numbers and things like that. Not saying you shouldn't take calculus, I guess I shouldn't have said that, but you know what I mean? You don't have to be a mathematician, but you have to be comfortable, and especially in some of these things with computers and things like that, because that's becoming everywhere. We're using more and more technology, and some people are better at it than others. And if you're able to have that skill that someone else might not have, then that's something that sets you apart. The last thing is writing. We do a lot of writing. I'm sure a lot of people do a lot of writing, and you notice a big difference between someone who can write well and someone who can't. And that makes a big deal, especially in our field. So whether you like it or not, I wasn't a huge fan of English class. I'm going to be honest. I was more of the math and science guy, but it's very important to know how to write and write well. So yeah.
Thanks, Brad. Kevin, what are the main skills in your area of expertise?
Definitely diversification. Like Brad just mentioned, I'm on my 7th book, and and I write a lot of proposals, and 1 in 5 proposal may win depending how good you're at. I realized that at a very young age, at 17, you're going to learn mistakes. Like Dustin said, things are going to fail. That's part of the learning process many times. I've been involved in 17 startups, 3 of my own, and you're going to fail, and it cycles. But there's 18 funding programs in climate change identified. There's money out there, so you've got to know your data. You got to know how much it costs to install a solar farm, per kilowatt hour. You need to understand the data in order to look at funding programs to make it happen for your client or your community, right? So I'm working on a trail system right now, a 10-kilometer trail system, and it's fun. There's funds from everywhere that comes out. People want to give money, but if you don't have the team together to make it happen, you might as well not even start. And that team is your investor, and that investor must have interest in your product, like SMRs, nuclear right now in this province. We have ARC and Moltec and a few other NB Power and a lot of companies that are putting money, hundreds of millions of dollars into this investment. And without investment in that data and the team, nothing will happen. And you do have to take a risk. And right now in Canada, for example, there's 25 companies that are into SMRs, right? They're trying to find the solution of the future, you know, but you learn from your mistakes. A lot of countries already made those mistakes. Hopefully we learn from these countries around the world, and like Scotland and Denmark, you know, and there's offshore wind that works. We don't have it yet, but I know there's a lot of green companies in Atlantic provinces. A new one called Climate Atlantic. There's a renewable association. Those are part of the team. So team, knowing your data and knowing what funding agencies will support your projects, that will make it happen.
It sounds like it's a mix of knowing what you're interested in, knowing what you're passionate about, developing those skills. There's always skills to be developed, you know, transferable skills as well that you will learn in high school, and by trying, like all of you mentioned, by trying something new and by failing, that's part of the process. My last question for you panelists, for the participants, is there any advice, or what would be something you could share with our students? And you shared already plenty of beautiful gold nuggets today. But any advice for students who are interested to pursue careers like yours? What would be your advice to them? Let's start with Melanie, please.
Sure. I think the biggest thing that I would draw from my personal experience is to just follow your own passion. And whether that takes you down a path that is different than you envisioned. And for me, I did a complete career 180 a couple of years ago, but I couldn't be happier for it. So taking those risks, this is kind of a theme that has come up, taking risks and being creative and solutions oriented. So if you're in a job that just doesn't sit well with your values, and maybe it's aligned with your skills, you're good at your job, but you don't love it at the end of the day, there's probably something out there for you. Don't be scared to make a change and get out there and try something new.
Dustin, what about you? Any advice for our students?
Yeah, I mean, I would say one thing is, you know, realize that you live in a time that is unprecedented. I didn't have this when I was younger. It came about when I was in my teenage years. You have access to almost every piece of information that humanity has digitized, and through that, you can learn almost any skill that you want, regardless of whether you have the money to go to school for it or not. And as somebody who's an entrepreneur, and I know many other entrepreneurs are like this, what's most important is the skills that you have. Make sure that you know them. Try not to overstate them. Don't be afraid to say, I don't know how to do this, and ask for help. That is essential. I'd say, you know, being an entrepreneur is not an easy task, and it takes a certain type of person to be able to do that. You know, it's a very high stress job. There's a lot of long days when you're running your own business. I'd say, you know, working in this field gives you the joy because you know you're working towards a better goal, and I think that's really important. I would say really follow your passions. You know, look into what you enjoy doing. For me, my passion was in building stuff, and I saw an opportunity to build things better, and so I pursued that avenue. Don't think it's an easy one. In the words of Biggie, more money, more problems. You know, we've raised we've raised over $1 million, but it's really we raised over 1 million tasks. So at the end of the day, you know, it's understand perspective on these things too. You know, the perspectives, the scales change very quickly, and understand that, you know, it takes a lot of hard work and dedication to make it in any career. And yeah, embrace failure. It's a lesson.
Amazing. Brad and then Kevin.
Yeah, Melanie and Dustin kind of took my idea in a sense. I not in the sense that I too had a career switch. Actually, I worked for the same company Melanie did, I think, when I first started at Gemtech, And so I learned that it wasn't for me, and so I did a 180 switch as well, and I'm glad I made that choice. So I'm kind of in that same boat. I guess my thing, would be to, especially in this area in Atlantic Canada, is to reach out and collaborate, and because you never know who you're going to come across. Like I said, Melanie and I worked at the same company. I've met Anna and Lee. I met you in a bunch of different areas and all that stuff. So, and there's different ideas. Like I came across Dustin today, and construction waste is a big issue at UNB. So now I'm going to go on your website, right? So be open to new ideas and to new people, and to just say yes to things that you might not want to do at the moment, but it could lead you down a road to find something interesting. A lot of my projects on campus are just me. I DM somebody on Instagram about their micromobility scooters, and now we might be bringing them onto campus, right? So just say yes to things. What's the worst that can happen, right? So that would be my advice to people in this career. We're all trying to work together, right? We all have the same goal, so just say yes.
Amazing. Kevin, you have the last word here.
The best advice I can give a younger generation is to volunteer for your nearest green group. There's so many in that you can network with and help out, and living shorelines from the Nashwaaksis River Valley to Kokan. There's living shorelines around the marina we did last year. We won awards, but I know it's not paid, but that experience and the networking will maybe allow you to see what's ahead of you, what passion and desire, like our panels mentioned, and you've got to, and volunteering is so rewarding, and you wouldn't believe the benefits in the end. And the second thing is balance, and there should be a wellness strategy. It's an article I just wrote to my engineering geoscientists. When I was 17, it's a wellness strategy. Make sure you balance. If you're sitting at a desk, make sure you get outside, enjoy the trails, kayak, and so don't forget the balance. So volunteering and balance, no matter what science you do, data analytics, if you do volunteering and balance, you'll become a better person.
Thanks, Kevin. Dustin?
I just wanted to add to his comment about the volunteering there. We definitely do hire a lot through internships, and it's a good way, especially if you want to get into these sustainability startups. They're on budgetary constraints, and hiring can be risky. If you're passionate and you want to get involved, reach out to one of them, ask them for an internship, and it can be a real foot in the door to be able to get long-term employment. Definitely, it shows that level of commitment and want to work that really any startup owner is going to really respect a lot.
And to piggyback on that, there's co-ops out there as well. I know that the New Brunswick Lung Association have co-ops and internships. So I hope, students, that you will take a lot away from this. I know I enjoyed this conversation so much. Thank you, dear panelists, for taking the time today. And again, if any of you have any questions regarding these careers, or you think of something later on, please do not hesitate to reach out to the Gaia Project, and we can put you in contact with our panelists and whatnot. So that is all for today, and this was the first of our 3 panel series for the summer. So thank you everyone for participating today, and I hope you have a great day.
Thanks for the invite.
Thank you,
Thank
Anna.
you so much.
Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.